Hi, everyone. Today's going to be so fun because look who you're looking at right now. That's Gene, and he's a clinical hypnotherapist. And today he is going to share with us his near-death-like experience. It's really not a death experience, but more like a spiritually transformational experience. It's always really hard to put these things into terms. And then we're going to do part two. This is going to be real quick, some fun stories he's going to share with us. And then part two, he has a lot more in-depth stories with more detail, including his meeting with Raymond Moody. Thanks so much, Gene, for being here with us. And I'd love to hear some of your wild stories.
Well, thank you, Melissa. Everything's fine over here in Georgia, but yes, I'm a 67-year-old gray-haired guy that's a retired respiratory therapist from out of the medical field for 35 years. I was a railroader. I got injured at the railroad back in 1976. I was taken into the hospital. They tried to pronounce me dead 3 times. I've got the tag for my toes when they didn't die. They had me in neurotrauma. They put me out on 4 East at the hospital so my mother could stay with me when I died. Well, I didn't ever read their books and I forgot to die. So then I turned around and I couldn't railroad anymore. So I waited and I went back to respiratory therapy school. And there I stayed for a long time. I've seen a lot. When I was in that condition, I woke up, I was coming out of a coma. I was in a coma for about a week or two, something like that. Week or two, I don't remember, I was asleep. And I remember looking up and I'm laying in traction and tubes going everywhere. This was strange to me. I didn't know anything about it. And I was sitting there and I thought I had wrecked my motorcycle, and they said, your motorcycle's fine. Well, what happened was I had a vision. And in this vision, I was riding, I saw me in the hospital bed, and all of a sudden I'm standing in sand. The next thing, I'm on top of a white horse. And I'm a motorcyclist. I don't do horses. And I'm riding this horse, and there's somebody following me. The horse is not running. It's just a simple gait that the horse was in. It was not hot. It was like a desert, no ocean beside me or anything like that. And there was somebody following me on a brown horse. They were far enough away, I couldn't see who they were. And then all of a sudden, my mother was shaking me, and she said, you're talking. And she said, what, is the horse going up or down? I didn't know I was even talking. And she broke me from that. And I was going, because you're either under drugs or something like that. And it really shocked me. What are you talking about? She says, you're riding a horse. I said, he has a white horse. But you see yourself in a hospital bed. Then you see yourself standing in the sand. Then you're riding a horse and somebody's following you. Now, what is the clues to this? And it bothered me for quite a while. I asked the doctors about it. Well, a few weeks later, I had to have major surgery done on my hip. And I didn't know what it was, but a pulmonary embolism. I had 6 of them at one time. My mother had gone home the first time in 33 days to take a shower and rest in her own bed. And my grandmother stayed with me, and that's the night the pulmonary embolism hit. And I said, if there's a God, please let him kill me now. The pain was so great. And my grandmother was crying. And I saw my second vision. My second vision was a dark horse. And the dark horse was running in the air. And every time he was a black horse. You couldn't tell who the rider was. You saw this horse come so close, you could see the breath coming out of his nose. Every time his hooves would hit on nothing, he wasn't on the ground. He was running like in the air, but his hooves put out gold sparks. And I saw him getting closer and closer and closer, and then he passed me by. And then I see it to this day. It never goes away. But anytime you call it up, it's the same thing. It won't go any further. And it has plagued me all these years. That's since 1976. That's been a long time. But you could sit there, and even with today's illustrations in GFI, they hadn't even come close to what I saw. And then I've had experiences like I saw my accident. I saw my body laying there. I also went down another timeline when I was fixing to quit the railroad and go into the Navy. And I saw that timeline, and I saw my death in the Navy. Was I was a scuba diver since the 10th grade in school. I was studying to go. I wanted to be in the Navy SEALs. I wanted to go into underwater demolition or something like that. And I was up under the water, and it blew up, you know, and I died on that timeline. But when I'll explain everything later, but when it all happened, it was really it was traumatic. You never get over these traumas. And that's what led me down this path after retiring from the hospital. I got to really looking into it. That led me down to remote viewing. I did that for a while, and I got into Reiki. And then I found out Reiki. Wow, this is great. I went through it. And when I got my first attunement, I'm bleeding. Can you stop it? I'm bleeding. Hang on. Okay.
Hey everyone, we're back with Gene. He's no longer bloody. He's going to explain to you why he suddenly got bloody. I didn't even notice. He didn't notice, except he started feeling dripping. You all probably noticed. But explain your bloody, why you were bloody before, please, Gene. But also, how do you help people and how can they reach you? So tell us about your bloody situation and how do you help people and your website or however you want them to reach out.
I just reached up and scratched my ears all. And but yeah, I love to help people. I got back into this so I could help people more. And because I was just sitting there because of 35 years of bending over a patient and stuff like that, you kind of miss it, the ER. I mean, it's really a stressful job, but it's an enjoyable because you help people. And when I was in the hospital, I knew then I wanted to be something to where I could help people because they pulled me out of the brink of death. So that's what I did. And so when I was sitting there, that's when I decided to learn things. I learned Reiki, like I said. And then what happened was when they did my first attunement, I was asked, what did you feel? And it's like my response was every EEG, EKG, EMGs that I assisted with and stuff like that over the years, everything came into fruition right there. I didn't need a graph paper or nothing. You feel it. And that's how your sympathetic parasympathetic nervous system works. And you figure out you're more than just a body. And that's when you become into the spiritual aspects. And I've really paid attention. I've followed everything. And then all of a sudden I started going to the hypnosis in Georgia and said, I want to do this. And that's when I learned about HMI. And that's when I went into classes and started learning what else I could do to help more people. I help people quit smoking. I help people with weight loss. Anxiety's out the wazoo over here in the COVID situation. I have a lot of that coming in. Certain kids with abandonment issues, you name it, you touch on it. And so you feel like you've done your job when somebody walks out and you've helped them. And I mean, it's a greater power. It's the feeling that you really don't understand until you've done it and you've worked in a hospital and people get well and it's a team effort. But when you've done it by yourself and that person walks out totally they're a different person. You know that you helped that person along the way almost by yourself. I know we have people that we can reach out to, but you're basically on your own. And I looked for that. And what happened was when I found out about HMI, I was in next door at the Hertz rental car place and a lady came in to rent the car, her and her husband. And she said, I done gave up on learning hypnosis and hypnotism and stuff like that. And then she said, well, I'm a hypnotherapist. And I go, where did you go to school? California. I said, you went all the way out? No, I did it online. I never knew it was online. And she told me about HMI. That's Jerry Moon. She became a good friend of mine. And she gave me all the information and I started studying. I got on there and looked at it. And then I called the school and talked to them and I enrolled. And then I went back through it to get my clinical. And I have not regretted a bit of it.
And how do people reach you if they'd like to hire you as a hypnotherapist? What do you help people with? Do you have an email, a website?
Yes, I do. I have my business is Inner Journey Therapeutics. You can reach me. You can go to my website and go to contact me. You can also, if you go in, you can schedule a free consultation. You can go in and it'll say, you look on and you'll say schedule one now. You can go in and schedule one right there. You can self-schedule. It
Okay.
has hours and stuff like that. But Gene at Inner Journey Therapeutics is my email address.
Can you say it again, but a little slower?
Gene at innerjourneytherapeutics.com.
And how do you spell Gene?
Gene.
Wonderful. Okay, thank you. And so people can contact you this way. And everyone, if you could, I know most people know this, but if you just use the little description button, it's a little arrow, you'll see, I'll put Gene into a few chapters so you can share different parts of his story that you found interesting. In case you have other friends that have a near-death-like experience and they had visions such as a horse. But we're going to do part 2 because a lot of people just like a brief introduction to our guest, who's Gene. And some people want to hear much more from Gene. And I do the same. This is why I do this. I was telling Gene, and I tell everyone this who's listening. First of all, I went to Gene's school. It's a year program on hypnotherapy and a lot more. It helps understand relationships we have and why we struggle with each other. Just fascinating things that I could teach you. But I also help people with weight loss, smoking, test taking. Mostly I focus on anxiety, doom, gloom, those kind of things, because I had that for almost 2 years. So that's why I do these interviews, to remind you, you are not alone. We all are struggling every day. When I go to stores and people say, how you doing? I say, decent. Because they say, yeah, I hear you. Because I know I'm not going to say, great. Yeah, my life is so perfect. Look at me on Facebook and Twitter and whatever these social media things are where everyone looks so perfect. I just like to be honest. I have major challenges like everybody else. But thank you, Gene, for this interview. Stay tuned for part 2. This is Gene part 1. And just look for part 2 by looking at my channel. It's Growth Factor. You can type in Growth Factor or Growth Factor NDE. I will warn you, there are people that have been taking my interviews. So you might find a few interviews that they just took from me. So it's going to be a little harder to find, but you'd have to type in Growth Factor or Growth Factor NDE. And thank you, Gene, so much for letting us know how to contact you. Bye, everyone. And bye, Gene.
Bye.
Thank you.